Hello, everybody. Welcome back. This is Roma Red Bull Salzburg review. Disappointing if you didn't get to see this one. Roma may or may not have deserved to lose this, as you have probably read or looked at on social media. And I think that there's two types of fans going in today. There's one who is like, the team's a disaster, get rid of everybody, what do you expect with financial fair play? And the other is like, no, you know what, they just got unlucky today. There were 3 or 4 opportunities where Roma should have put it in the back of the net. And of course, it's another moment where you have a keeper from a not so great team, no disrespect to Red Bull Salzburg, who is able to come up with a master class. And it's very reminiscent of the game against Lecce, although I thought Roma were a bit more energetic in that match for sure. So welcome if you are watching this recorded. If you're watching this, after the fact, this is a live stream. Write in comments, likes, all that stuff. So thank you for that ahead of time. But as I was watching this match, I got to watch most of it while I was at work, and I noticed one thing was that Dybala was absent for the first half, and then he gets picked out. And I'm concerned because it now looks like he has a muscular issue, and what does that mean going into the weekend? It's going to be tough. Verona is no slouch of a team. They always play a tough style of football, always defend first and attack second. So how do you get past those gates of Verona without an informed Dybala? And that's a question that we're definitely going to have going into this weekend. And that is a Sunday match at 2:45 or 2:30, 2:45 on Sunday. So about 8:45 Italian time. And as I look at the performances, it's somewhat reminding me of the issues that Roma had going into this season, as Marin writes in his comment. And one of those is Tammy's struggles in front of net. And I was listening to Rete Sport on the radio as I was driving home. And the one thing that one caller had mentioned was that Roma was missing a ruthlessness in front of goal, Cataviera, Cataviera, like a angry, I think in English it's ruthlessness in front. So it's frustrating, of course, when you're goal scorer. You look at someone like Vlahovic, right, and he puts away almost every sniff at goal that he gets, and it's tough. And I would say it's a tough moment also for Roma. I think that when we look at some of the issues that Roma came into this game with, one was perhaps motivation, another was play build-up, and the third is finishing, and those are really big issues. Nice to see Enzo in the chat, popular Roma writer, our social media guy. Also see Paul checking in. How are you doing, Paul? And we've got Courage. What can we do to improve finishing? That is the question of the day, isn't it? Not enough shots on goal. So that's something I wanted to touch upon, Paul. So shots on goal, right? Roma gets 3 or 4 good opportunities that should go into the back of the net. However, with Mourinho's play, with counter-attacking football, that's exactly what you want, is that 3 or 4. When you don't get those goals, that's your plan A. Plan A is always to get the early goal and then be able to sustain pressure and hold on for the lion's share of the match, for the majority of the time. What really goes wrong is, 1, Roma doesn't convert, that's obvious, but 2, is that Red Bull Salzburg scores late. So immediately Roma is thrown into their plan B. And now they have to usher in a completely different strategy within their heads, within the way that the players are approaching the match. And for 10 minutes, they're forced to play in a way which they're not accustomed to, which they didn't want to get into. And that makes it very tough. Courage says, do you think someone should play in front of Abraham, perhaps like off his shoulder? That's what I like about El Shaarawy, to be honest with you, Courage, is he is the player who will get off the shoulder, who will make that run for Abraham to lay it off to, and somebody who will stretch out the right back and then create more space actually for Tammy as well, for the number 9 to slide in and make his space between the 2 center backs and hopefully score a goal. That's where a good fox in the box comes in, is somebody who can find that space, but that can only happen with a player pressing high up and then stretching out the defense, as a team like Verona is surely to play with a compact back 4 or back 5, however they end up setting up on Sunday. Enzo says it's a tough match to analyze, just comes down to our inability to finish, the story of our season thus far. unfortunately, and it has absolutely been a big theme for us, is the ability to finish and that quality in the final third of the pitch, whether it's finishing or the final ball. I think that is an area, regardless of tactics, regardless of, player personnel, that across the board, that is somewhere where we've really struggled. And it's a tough thing. How do you get over that hump? That's a really good question. Is it just a matter of going back out to the training ground more and practicing and repetition? Perhaps. I mean, that's what, collegiate teams will be doing for sure when they have a bad game in front of goal, go out, practice. And I have to imagine it's very much the same for a professional team. And I don't think that this is what Tammy wants in his career. Guy's 24 years old, and this is the next year and a half, where he has to really start putting up big numbers, not just for the sake of his own career and doing good for his team, that is Roma, but also for his goals and his aim to be on the national side. You have to put up big numbers if you want to get, even a look on the pitch when your first in line is Phil Foden and Harry Kane, depending on the module. Yeah, you're going to have to show something really, really good. As well as the guy, what's his name? He just got indicted of betting on games. He's really good. Why can't I think of English center forward? He was even linked to Manchester United. Write in that comment if you know who I'm talking about. But he's deadly as too, Englishman. Enzo says, it's sometimes jarring seeing the difference in killer instinct in the final third between Dybala and the rest of the team. Dybala's quality is undebatable as being head and shoulders above the rest of the attacking roster that Roma have right now. I don't want to say giving up. That's not what I mean. I have a lot of hope in what Solbakken can offer. I'm a little bit frustrated that it's taking this long to get him out onto the pitch, because I was kind of hoping that he would hit the ground running and run off of that motivation and become a big thing instantly. I know that's a stretch. It's not so super realistic as a fan, but yeah, Enzo makes the point that Dybala is, it's amazing difference of what he brings to the side. And like in that first half today, where he doesn't really get into the game, perhaps he came into this one with a muscular injury. Well, I looked at the starting lineup and I said, wow, Mourinho actually really wants to win this one. I was thinking he was going to go a little bit lighter in perhaps the same mold that he approached Cremonese in the Coppa Italia with. But then we see not pretty much, this is Roma's best 11 as far as Mourinho is concerned. And what do you know? He comes out with an injury. It's very unfortunate. Paul asks, what about Pellegrini up there? Not sure that's his position. I agree. I don't think Pellegrini is a front three guy at all. I think right now it's really being shown that he is somebody who needs to play in a midfield of three. And I mean more of I don't want to say staggered, but with like a true defensive midfielder behind him, and then two center mids kind of playing in the same line. I'm always using my hands like a crab here. But imagine a defensive midfielder is like where my chin is, and then instead of sometimes an attacking mid will go up, and then you have one intermedio, like a mezzala. No, I think that Pellegrini is better in a line of two in front of a defensive midfielder. Ivan Toney, yeah, I love his play. I don't know what's going to happen with his issues, with his judicial issues, but he is quite the player, man. But that's what I mean. Like, if Tammy wants to get back to his best, he's going to have to start putting these away. And I can imagine how difficult this moment must be for him. So, Adamu, I had a awkward looking short that I put out last night. I recorded it on my phone, and then I uploaded it, I think, through iMovie on my phone, which wasn't good. It didn't look great. But anyway, I was speaking in those 54 seconds about this player, Adamu, and also Okafor. So the one thing that kept reaching out to me about this Red Bull Salzburg side is how young that they are. Even Luka Sucic, the center midfielder. So they're all like in between 20 to 22 years old, the majority of this team. So that inexperience should have been taken advantage of by players like Matic, Cristante, even Zalewski at this point, who is starting in a much better league and has emerged himself. And he needs definitely to figure some things out with the rest of the team in order to improve his form, because I wouldn't imagine that he's happy with how things have gone this season either. I want to see him getting a little bit more forward, creating more goal-scoring opportunities so much in what we saw last season of him, where he really broke out. And I think he needs to get over that hump. And sometimes success for young players does not look like this. We all want it to be, a jet stream, just a constant flow of up, just up and up. But sometimes it goes down a little bit. The chart of success is sometimes, it takes time. And I think that's going to be a theme of Zalewski throughout this season. And you could probably also say the same for Salik, who is really trying to find his rhythm within the defensive back five. Enzo says, I believe it's time to once again either drop Pellegrini into a deeper role and move El Shaarawy into the attack. I believe last week in a recap, I was talking, we were discussing our starting 11s. And for me, it's El Shaarawy at the left wing. So in the center, I probably still have it as a banner. If I look at my interface for a second here. No, I don't, but that's okay. Anyway. No, that's what we had. That's very similar to what we lined up with today. I think actually that might be today's lineup. Yeah, it was. But I really think Enzo and everyone else, that El Shaarawy is the starter on the left wing. Like I was saying about 5-6 minutes ago, that player who can feed off of Tammy, as well as somebody who can combine with El Shaarawy, somebody who has speed, somebody who doesn't give up. And honestly, somebody who can score a really big goal every now and then, which we know El Shaarawy is capable of. The kid used to play center forward earlier on in his career. He transitioned out to a left wing. He's often been criticized of doing the same move over and over again. I'll say, though, that I'm missing that, honestly. I'm missing that winger who is so good at one thing that you can't stop him. Remember, Arjen Robben, he would do the same move, the same cut, left-footed from the right wing, drop his shoulder, shoot, scored thousands of goals that way, right, throughout his career. And that is something which has made El Shaarawy so deadly, and I really want to see him back in that role and crucifying teams the way that he used to, because you know how good that ball feels when it goes into the top shelf far post. You know it. All right, let's keep the comments coming in, guys. Thank you. Enzo also says, over the last month, I've noticed a great connection and feeling between Dybala and El Shaarawy. They've linked up very well. I'd like to see those two playing closer together. Yes, for sure. And Zalewski's development, not linear, and he definitely expects more from himself. And I think that maybe I do think that the 3-5-2 benefits him, 3-4-2-1, whatever you want to call it. It does. I think perhaps him not being able to get as much free reign as we saw last year, perhaps there's something going on there. There's something which I can't just put my finger on yet. Let me know what you think. What is Zalewski's, what's going to make him tick? What's going to get him back to what we saw last season? Perhaps it's overall team play. Perhaps it's the fact that the team often passes backwards, which limits him, rather than getting him into more forward-thinking spaces, into zones which are giving him a better opportunity to create those chances. Naveen, thank you, man. Yeah, I got my boom mic here. It's coming in. I had I used my phone camera right here, and unfortunately, I couldn't get it up. So right now, it might look a little grainy. That's because I'm using my IMAX camera. But nonetheless, hope the audio is more important than, you don't need to see every single detail on the newspaper back there. But as long as it sounds good, I'm happy. Marco, what's going on, man? Did you notice Wijnaldum played just behind the forward like Pellegrini? What was that? Wijnaldum attacking midfield and not getting back. Total lunacy. So Wijnaldum will definitely have to adjust to the tactics. We saw him emerge at the beginning of the season in the Copia, in the double pivot. It's not really a pivot, but the two-man midfield. But earlier in his career, this came up somewhere. I'm not sure if it's on Big Soccer or if it was here, but that Wijnaldum, in the beginning of his career, did play as an attacking midfielder. Now, that could be interesting, right? If you play Wijnaldum as this trequartista of a type, Dybala out on the right, and then Abraham. Could be good, but I want to see Wijnaldum more as the number 8 rather than this type of 7 player. Mourinho's head better be with Roma and not thinking ahead. This here was something criticized in Roman radio this morning, and as I was reading, I don't remember who it was, but they were saying, like, there's so much of this controversy over whether Dybala will stay next year, Mourinho will stay. But that's taking away from the fact that Roma is the most important entity here, and that needs to be respected. And I agree. I am a little sick of constantly this news stream, this tabloid stuff of like, oh, Mourinho might leave. Is it good enough? Blah, 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 blah. Like, stop it. You got to respect the club, respect the contract, and at the end of the season, okay, things happen. I understand that. But for now, the attention needs to be on the pitch, 100%. And yes, Mancini is definitely becoming a leader on this side. Marco says Roma price is going down like vertigo. And it is an issue as Roma approaches financial fair play. One thing which will come up in the summer for sure is that these players, aside from Ibanez, aside from Tammy Abraham, do not have relatively high transfer value in proportion to their output. I was looking at this grid today. If you think of, like, let's start from besides maybe Ibanez, Mancini, and who did I just say before? Pellegrini, but Roma's not going to sell Pellegrini. But Abraham, right? Take away those four. Wijnaldum is on loan. Cristante does not have much of a value. Chris Smalling is ready to leave on a free if he doesn't meet with his salary. Spinazzola, zero transfer value. Zalewski, okay, but he's not going to be sold. Pray. El Shaarawy, no, his contract will be expiring. He's also older. Dybala, 20 million. He's Roma's best player. Who else as I go through the roster? Matic, no. And that leads into an issue for sure when you're trying to raise funds. Look at what these Portuguese teams do. It's phenomenal. They scout, they bring in guys for 5, 6, 7 million. They flip them for 35. It's incredible business what goes on in Benfica, Sporting Lisbon, and I am somewhat envious of not only of what they do, but how they're able to also stay successful like year after year. But that's like a tangent I don't want to go down. I live in a highly Portuguese area, and I can't be seen in public giving credit to Portuguese teams. Enzo says, I personally believe Pellegrini's drop-off has hurt Zalewski this season. Last year, those two linked up well. Just look at that goal against Leicester. It's not the sole reason, but one of them. It's an interesting point there. Also was Zaniolo. It was a recipient of 2 passes, 2 assists from Zalewski against Bodo Glimt. Morin says, I'm pretty sure Wijnaldum once scored 4 goals in a game for Newcastle. Yo, that's a great shout. I forgot Wijnaldum was at Newcastle. That would be a really cool kit to get, actually. That'd be a fun one. That must have been, where was he from? PSV? If I'm not wrong, maybe that's his first one after transferring over from the Netherlands. Here we got it. Yeah, he was at Feyenoord and then spent 4 years there and then 4 years at PSV and then a year at Newcastle before his big signing to Liverpool. The guy can still do it. Oh, he's my age. He's 32. Cool stuff. As I'm looking through a couple more of these, I'm going to reach Enzo's right here. I really hope we get not only Fratesi, but also another central mid this summer, potentially an Amrabat. Probably unrealistic, but watching the current hole in our midfield hurts my heart. You know who I read quite a bit about today, and of course it's, Mourinho likes this player. It's just like transfer news. But one thing that even though it is just like notizie, I still think that it is a realistic option, is the player for Lecce, Højlund. You know him from the guy who got the red card, and he just had a big game against Roma again in that draw. He is really good at protecting the defense. He's 23 years old, Danish defensive midfielder. He wins the ball back. He's protective of his players in more ways than one. He sticks up for his guys, and I think he brings a characteristic that this side often lacks, like that grinta, that toughness, and somebody who can push the other team around. So I really like that profile. When I saw it mentioned, I was like, actually, that makes a lot of sense. Apparently, they denied a bid of around 15 million euros during the summer. So that might be another big name which comes up in midfield. And I have to imagine that in the summer there is going to be some rotation. Naveen, I'm not sure what's going on with Calafiori. We had a lot of hope for him. Not really too sure, but I will definitely look into that for you. But I think as time goes on, Zalewski becomes the left back. I think what would make a lot of sense is signing a true left back and somebody that allows Roma to play with 4 at the back. Whether it's Mourinho or not going into next season, I think that we really need something and somebody who offers a bit more balance rather than, Zalewski is not a true left back. Spinazzola, not a left back. Selic, I would call him a true right back, though. He's done well this season, Enzo says about Holland. I think something that we've lacked in recent years is not being able to hit on smaller name players. We used to use that strategy quite a bit. Modin says if Matic was 3 years younger, he would be perfect. Sven checking in. He says Shaarawy is a beast. Yeah, we hope he resigns. Marco says, what happened with Tahirovic? Wasn't he supposed to be something special and now he's nowhere to be found? Tahirovic is slowly being integrated into this team. We see him get minutes every now and then. However, because the stakes have been so high, every game has been so close, and the race for fourth is hotter than ever going into the back stretch. It's almost March, which is really crazy to think. I think we're in round 22, so there's only 16 more rounds. I think Mourinho is less inclined to take chances with young players right now, although I'm not excluding the probably more than a possibility, the reality that Tahirovic, Bove, and even Volpato will continue to get minutes as depth runs a little bit short. And as I'm talking about depth, and Paul jumps in with 2 matches in a short amount of time, players getting tired, teams losing a little oil now. Yeah, and I thought that was an issue today, was definitely the motivation and the intensity and the desire heading into this. Enzo says, just about to head out. Great live stream. Thank you, Enzo. Have a great night. Yes, Forza Roma sempre. Sempre, always. Sven says, I'm confident we'll win at home, but today wasn't pretty. I hope so as well. I don't want to think about what would happen if Roma don't win against Red Bull Salzburg. They are a better team. Look, pound for pound, Roma is much better. They're a decent side. A couple of these players will end up going to Red Bull Leipzig for sure. I think that Sucic eventually ends up there in a year or two. Probably Okafor as well. He'll be one of these guys that goes within the system and then gets sold for 40 million euros to, like, I don't know, Wolves or somebody in the EPL, Yeah, I can't wait, man. Paul, I can't wait to get back to the Stadio Olimpico. I really miss it. I'm going to probably maybe try in the fall, perhaps. A lot of hype about Reynolds, but not sure how he's doing. I heard he's actually doing pretty decent. Last time I checked, Brian Reynolds was in the Belgian league, I think. I think I got the wrong Brian Reynolds here. This guy does not play for the Pirates, the Pittsburgh Pirates. Reynolds, let's get this at Roma. There we go. I'm like, that's not him. There's 2 Brian Reynolds, 2 professional Brian Reynolds, just so you know, and one plays baseball. He is at Westerlo, which is, yes, in the Belgian First League in Antwerp. So there's that. But yeah, I've heard some good things coming out of him. A couple other things, guys, I wanted to talk about today was that Berardi, the club CEO, he spoke recently about the stadium. I'm going to try to get the article here and then get to some Mourinho comments. Apparently, it's looking like it's going to be about 62,500 seats, which would be good, which would allow Roma to host, I think, the biggest of European championships, like the Champions League, and they could host that, I think, which would, I think that the minimum is 60 there. So Roma Stadium, I'm going to try to pull this article up real quick. And I know that they want to get it in within next year. They want to get shovels in the ground. I'm not sure how realistic that's going to be. But yes, so the CEO, he spoke, and he's still going on that hopefully this gets done sooner. So it seems like there's a lot of optimism about that. Also, if you've seen anything going on with the Ultras, so what's happened is that Red Star Belgrade, their Ultras are some of the most renowned in Europe, some of the most dangerous Ultras. They have apparently made a gemelaggio, a twinning, or like a friendship with Napoli's Ultras. And from what I understand is that they actually hid in the bushes at the Stadio Olimpico, getting this from a trusted source, and that they jumped, I guess is the right word, the Fedane members, Roma and Boys, Roma's biggest 2 Ultras groups, one more right-wing, one more left-wing, but militant nonetheless, jumped them and then stole their banners. So there's some drama going on with the Ultras groups right now, which I'm totally keeping an eye on. I did my dissertation on these groups for my master's, so I'm always trying to, follow up what's going on because this stuff can get pretty intense. So, and Red Star, like I said, they have a bad reputation, and we'll see how that ends up going on. Let's get to some Mourinho comments in this post one. I heard some on the radio in Italian. We're looking. Here we go. I've got it pulled up right now. Bear with me. Thursday, it's almost Friday. I'm very excited. It feels like one of the longest weeks, especially coming after Super Bowl Sunday. But here we go. Mourinho said, "This is football," is what we say in these situations. You have to score goals. And he spoke to Sky Sport Italia. He says, "It could have happened, but it happened. I think we dominated the game. We were always in control of a match that was very relaxed for us. We missed some incredible chances, and there was a clear penalty not awarded to us in the first half. We were unlucky with the change of ref to this gentleman here. Conceding a goal in the final minute was unjust." But he says, "We have to put the ball in the net. When we don't, then there is this risk. We know who we are. We know our limits. But when my team gives all, I never have a negative word to say. I don't know what's wrong," speaking about Dybala. "He just told me he was not in any condition to keep playing. I can say that without Paulo, we moved Stefan Shaarawy, then the change of Tammy for Belotti. When we concede a goal, though, there's nothing else to do." I don't know what he means by that. I think he means like it's kind of finished, like it's, then it kind of ruined everything, so to speak. Yeah, so I like what he says here, and I'm going to put this in a banner if it all can fit, about not having a negative word to say when the team gives their all. And it is tough. It's really tough to play two tournaments, and one which demands so much amount of football in a short amount of space. So we have to put the ball in the net. I never have a negative word to say. I like that quote. So I agree with Mourinho on that one. He also discussed Rick Karsdorp, and he actually took accountability. One thing, and I don't know if I have ever heard it before, is Mourinho take accountability for anything. But he says, "I messed up by calling Rick Karsdorp a traitor," and kind of left it at that. So I do believe, and I got this hunch about 3-4 weeks ago, that Rick will reemerge. He will become part of the team. I believe he was even called up today, if I'm not incorrect. I'm going to jump to some comments as well. We don't have any. Sorry, I thought I had read some new comments. Anyway, let's see if there's anything else going on here. Before I sign off, it's 5:43 where I am. Almost dinner time. I'm making pork chops tonight with some zucchini. So I'm looking forward to that, my friends. What else? Let's look at some other scores around the league. The Europa League is a mini Champions League this year for sure, with Juventus, Monaco, Barcelona, United, Sevilla against PSV. So a couple of these score lines here. We have got a big draw, 2-2, Barcelona versus Manchester United. United being the home team for that one. Monaco took that 3-2. If I'm not incorrect. Yeah. Right? Yes, 3-2. Juventus drew Nantes from France. Sevilla beat PSV 3-0. Sporting tied against Midtjylland 1-1. And Shakhtar beat Rennes. And yes, of course, we lost today. All right. Yes. Here we go. Belotti is actually so unlucky at the moment, Spence says. I still have faith in him, and I think he's been doing decent the last couple of games. I agree that with time, with a good run of games, with 3 or 4 under his belt, that Belotti will start to show the goods. I wouldn't count him as a finished player just yet. I think it's unfair. And for the excitement, I think so many of us were like, oh, now we got so much striker depth. Well, striker depth is a funny thing because strikers are streaky by nature, and they do need time. So it's easy to get on them and get upset when those goals don't come. But I think that Tammy could also use some time, and that right now, going to Verona, Belotti is my preferred choice, I have to say, guys. Marco, yes, thank you for getting in on this. Red Star Belgrade boys are part of a serious mafia here in Serbia, but at the moment they are under prosecution for murders and drug selling, so it's not like they were included in this anti-Roma stuff. So maybe this isn't the biggest smudge against their record. I think it looks like they have a lot bigger issues going on. But nevertheless, they are starting some drama even here in Rome due to their relationship with the Napoli Ultras. I wonder if somehow, imagining almost like a movie, if Partizan Belgrade, if I gotta say Marco, sorry, but I'm probably more of a Partizan fan than a Red Star fan. I haven't liked too many of the players who come out of Red Star. There's also the whole political background that has to do with Red Star. They've always had these boisterous, militant fans. It's just not, it's not appropriate at football matches. But I'm sure you and I could have a long conversation about that. By the way, guys, I was checking out some actually really good videos. Copa 90. Have you ever heard of Copa 90 on YouTube? I'm going to send you the link because I have to say this is like a personal dream. I think in my head, I'm like, I want to be like the Anthony Bourdain of Italian football. Sorry. That was, I'm going to put this on mute. But like eating, traveling, watching football, talking with fans. Like that's like my dream. It's my personal thing. But I'm going to put this link here. And they have a great site. Like their storytelling capabilities are incredible. And they got great hosts, great stuff behind them. Definitely worth your time. If you like watching YouTube, and I've, even though I'm streaming and we do this, right? I have noticed myself watching YouTube more and more as it becomes, TV is like, what is TV anymore? That's like second string to YouTube. Thanks a lot, Paul. Second string to TV. Yeah, to YouTube. Oh, sorry. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining today. It's time for us to get on with it and hope that against Verona, Roma go on and take 3 points. So let's get some info on that. Yes, Sunday. Anything else to watch out for that I could send you before we sign off? I'm just looking on Google right now. Nothing crazy, guys. Let's look at the Serie A table really quick, see where Verona is as well. Roma are in 4th with 41 points, tied with Atalanta in 3rd with 41 points, Inter with 44, so it's really tight. And Verona, look at that, are in relegation, 18th spot, and they've got 17. But their recent form, they're coming off a win, 2 draws, and then a win. So look at that. Verona's in good form. And I definitely think we need a super strong end to February going into March, which is going to be much more difficult. Say your prayers for Paulo Dybala's muscles. And yes, have a safe one, guys. Forza Roma sempre. Ciao. We'll talk soon.